we've explored the politics. Now, the legal and ethical implications over this battle about the detainees. Is it perhaps all an attempt to make how we've already treated detainees kind of retroactively legal? The story in the countdown, we've looked at the purely political, now the legal and ethical slippery slopes the president is hell-bent on running down. At issue, General Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, which states that people in detention, quote, shall in all circumstances be treated humanely. It goes on to ban violence to life and person, in particular murder of all kinds, mutilation, cruel treatment, and torture, and outrages upon personal dignity, in particular humiliating and degrading treatment. But the administration argues that all this is covered under an American law, the 2005 Detainee Treatment Act, that states, quote, no individual in the custody or under the physical control of the United States government, regardless of nationality or physical location, shall be subject to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Joining us now, Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor at George Washington University, has been good enough to take some time to be with us tonight. Jonathan, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Have we been looking at this through the wrong end of the telescope, that the president's rush, fury to get this done in only his way is not about getting new information, about protecting against new threats, but about somehow trying to make the way we've already treated detainees retroactively okay? Is he covering his own backside with this?
Quite frankly, I think that there's evidence to say he is. The thing that is ticking here in terms of a clock is the fact that these 14 guys that were recently transferred just arrived not that long ago in Gitmo in Cuba. They are going to be or have been interviewed by the Red Cross. Most people believe that they will reveal that they were subject to waterboarding, that where you are held underwater until you think that you're going to drown. That is undeniably torture under the international standard. If that occurs in the coming days, the United States, and specifically the president, will be accused of committing a very serious violation of international law. Torture is one of the top 3 or 4 things that the international law is designed to prevent. And so the reason there's this move to try to get legislation as fast as possible is because I think the administration senses that there's a lot of trouble coming down this mountain.
How would some sort of Senate authorization to adjust the Geneva Conventions on our end of it after we've signed the document, how would that, though, protect the president or anybody involved in the waterboarding or anything else they might be accused of?
Well, he would retroactively define what he did not to be a violation. It's pretty good if you're going to commit a violation of law to go and get the legislature to retroactively say what you did was not a violation. But remember, the president stands accused of 30 felonies in the NSA controversy. Many of us believe he committed felony crimes there. If now he's going to be accused of intentionally and knowingly ordering serious violations of international law, it's not going to go well for the United States. We're already viewed as a rogue nation around the world. But here's something the president most likely knew about and condoned.
Well, that would certainly explain Secretary Powell's terminology about losing the moral basis. But let's focus this back in on what we're seeing right now here, what we know of. The editorial in the Washington Post today summarized what the paper believes the administration wants to do by changing the law. Let me read part of this thing. It wants to authorize, or wants authorization for the CIA to hide detainees in overseas prisons where even the International Committee of the Red Cross won't have access. It wants permission to interrogate those detainees with abusive practices that in the past have included induced hypothermia and waterboarding or simulated drowning. And it wants the right to try such detainees and perhaps sentence them to death on the basis of evidence that the defendants cannot see and that may have been extracted during those abusive interrogation sessions. Jonathan, the Post also called this a defining moment in our history. Is it that? If the president gets his way, have we just become what the terrorists want us to become?
Well, I'm afraid it would be, but this is really a redefining moment. You know, I always tell people, the presidents use that term as well. Our defining moment came in 1787 when we defined ourselves in a constitutional document that committed us to the rule of law. And what would happen here if we embrace torture at the president's invitation would be to redefine ourselves. And we will become something that we have long fought against. And the fact that this is occurring, you know, this week is the Constitution Day, which we're supposed to celebrate our commitment to the rule of law. And for the president to celebrate it by calling for us to embrace torture is perhaps the most bizarre combination I've ever seen.
And don't forget this either, Jonathan. It is unacceptable to think. Law expert, constitutional law expert Jonathan Turley, great pleasure of having you on the show as always. Great.
Thanks, Keith. Good to see you.